When Google shipped Antigravity, I filed it in the same drawer as everything else this year. Another VS Code fork, another cursor, another editor with a chat box bolted on. And here's the inconvenient part. I wasn't wrong about that. It is a VS Code fork. But filing it there is exactly how I missed what it's for, because what Google built isn't the place you type. It's the place you don't. Watch where the work goes. The center of gravity lifts off the keyboard, off the editor, and lands on a second surface, where agents are already running tasks on their own. That's the whole story. Antigravity isn't another editor. It's an attempt to move the center of gravity off the editor entirely. Welcome to AI TechBook. Today, the product everyone called another editor, Google Antigravity, and why that's the wrong frame. What agent first means, how it works, and where, honestly, it still bites. Let me be fair to the skeptics, because I was one. Cursor is a VS Code fork. Windsurf is a VS Code fork. Antigravity is a VS Code fork. Same shell, same tab bar, same file tree. If that's all you look at, they're triplets. The difference isn't the editor, it's a second surface bolted on top. Antigravity ships two views. One is the editor, a normal AI-powered coding tool with tab completion and inline commands, the part that looks like its cousins. The other is the manager, and that's the one with no twin in Cursor or Windsurf. Watch where the product wants your attention. The editor dims to a fallback you drop into when you need to be hands-on. The manager lights up as home base. The real question isn't, is it better than Cursor? It's, what does that second surface let you do? Open Antigravity, and instead of dropping straight into code, you start in the manager. Google's own words for it, a place to spawn, orchestrate, and observe multiple agents working at the same time. Read those three verbs as a control room. Spawn, you stand up an agent and hand it a task. Orchestrate, you can run several at once on different parts of the workspace in parallel. Observe, you watch them work asynchronously, the way a control room watches several missions at once instead of riding shotgun on one. Notice what your hands are doing in this view? Nothing. You're not typing. You're dispatching and watching. The editor downstairs is still there, but it's the place you go when you need to be hands-on, not the place you live. That's the agent first shift in one screen. More autonomy, you supervising instead of authoring. Here's where agent first stops being a slogan. In an autocomplete world, the unit of work is a line, the tool guesses the next few tokens, and you accept or reject. In Antigravity, the unit you hand over is a whole task. Google's own example: delegate an entire task, reproduce an issue, generate a test case for it, and implement a fix. You don't write those three steps. You describe the outcome, and the agent plans the steps, runs them, and works the loop, reproduce, test, fix, rerun, until the thing it built actually passes. Watch the unit of work change size. It was a line you accept. Now it's a ticket you assign. That's not a faster autocomplete. It's a different job for you. The scarce skill stops being typing speed and becomes writing a task an agent can actually finish. A coding agent that only writes code is half blind. It can't tell whether what it wrote actually works. Antigravity's agent isn't half blind. It works across three surfaces at once. The same agent acts in the editor, runs commands in the terminal, and drives a built-in browser, so after it writes the fix, it can open the app and check that fix in a real browser, not just claim it's done. Here's the design move that earns the whole reframe. It hands you artifacts, tangible deliverables, a task list, an implementation plan, screenshots, even a recording of the browser session, as the trail of evidence for what it did. Watch what you're actually looking at. Not every keystroke as it happens. You're at a review rail, reading the agent's evidence after the fact. The plan it followed, the screenshot of the result, the recording of it testing its own work. That's what turns trust the agent into review the agent. All that autonomy is only as good as the model driving it. So what's in the engine bay? At launch, the default engine was Gemini 3 Pro, the model Google built the autonomy story around, with credentials like about 54% on terminal bench, the test of operating a real terminal. The bay is swappable, and it's already been swapped. The current default is the faster Gemini 3.5 Flash, and you can still drop in Anthropic's Claude or an open source GPT model in the same socket. Notice what stays fixed and what moves. The chassis is the product, the manager, the delegation, the artifacts. The model is a cartridge. Antigravity's betting the harness matters more than any single engine. That's a smart hedge. When a better model ships next quarter, the control room doesn't change. You swap the cartridge. Here's the part the launch demo skipped and the part that genuinely worried me. The same reach that makes the agent useful, that editor, terminal, and especially that browser, is the exact reach an attacker wants. Two real findings. First, a remote code execution hole. A file search tool didn't validate its input, so an attacker could sneak in an execute flag and run arbitrary programs. It ran before the safety mode's checks even fired. Google patched that one in February. Second, and scarier, security researchers hid an instruction in tiny 1-point font on an ordinary web page. When the agent read the page, it followed the hidden instruction, collected code-based data, slipped past the ignore file protections, and used its own browser to send secrets, including cloud credentials from an environment file, to an attacker's address that was on the default allow list. Google's response to that one was reported as a warning during onboarding. A disclaimer, not a fix. The second honest cost isn't dramatic like a data leak. For daily use, it's worse. You can't tell how much you have left. Antigravity is free in preview, which is generous. The rate limits are deliberately opaque. Google publishes no quota numbers, only that the free tier is weekly, and that usage is weighted by, quote, the work done by the agent. Not tokens. Effort. A single complex task, an architecture plan, or a big refactor can swallow a huge slice of your allowance at once. Reviewers doing week-long hands-ons describe a meter that reads full moments before a sudden, multi-day lockout, and waits of 6 to 10 days even on paid tiers. Watch the gauge. It doesn't drain. It falls off a cliff. And because it counts effort you can't see, you can't plan around it the way you plan a token budget. Hype or substance? The honest answer needs both pans of a scale, not a thumbs up or down. On one pan, the autonomy is real and genuinely new, a control room where you delegate whole tasks, an agent that works across editor, terminal, and browser, and artifacts that make reviewing it cheap. That's not a rebranded editor. The center of gravity did move. Google's only deepened the bet. A year after launch, it grew Antigravity from 2 surfaces into a full agent platform, adding a command line tool, a software development kit, and managed background agents. On the other pan, a code execution hole that needed patching, a data exfiltration path met with a warning, and a meter you can't read. Those aren't deal breakers for trying it. They're deal breakers for trusting it with your production secrets today. 4 moves if you remember nothing else about Antigravity. 1. It's not another editor, it's a manager control room where you spawn and watch agents. 2. You delegate whole tasks, not lines. 3. One agent works across editor, terminal, and browser, and hands you artifacts to review instead of keystrokes to babysit. 4. The autonomy is real, but it's running ahead of its security guardrails and its rate limit economics. Agent first means the work moved off the editor, so your job moved from authoring to delegating and verifying. Learn the workflow now. Trust it with production carefully. That's Antigravity, not another editor, but a control room you delegate to. If it helped, share it with one person rethinking how they build. And subscribe to AI TechBook. Next, OpenAI Codex, how chatbot coding became repo-level delegation. Thanks for watching.